When my home caught fire, my relatives arrived not to assist, but to mock. Eventually, the universe had retaliated against me. My father locked eyes with me and remarked, "You brought this upon yourself. Some folks are simply jinxed." I stared back and murmured, "Thanks for revealing your true colors." That was 2 years ago. Just last week, I took steps they weren't ready for. And now they've been calling incessantly, pleading, "You must resolve this. Please answer." I have no idea how to approach this, but here goes. 2 years have passed, and I still reflect on it weekly. I suppose that's typical when things spiral out of control, especially from those expected to support you. Not that my family ever truly did, to be frank. I always believed that when things got serious, they would at least feign concern. For context, I'm Braden, now 27. I moved out some time ago because my family is, I don't know, not toxic in the way Reddit likes to claim, just competitive and distant. Everyone's always attempting to outshine one another. My father, in particular, has always been the dominant figure. Everything feels like a competition. My older brother Carson is like a doppelganger of him, always criticizing others for not taking responsibility and being mature. My sister Nicole, on the other hand, will smile at you and then share screenshots of your texts in the family group chat later. My mom just tries to prevent anyone from clashing, but she's perfected that "I warned you" expression. So, I managed to save enough for this old rental house, nothing remarkable, but it was mine and peaceful, allowing me to live my own life. The first few months were good. I established my own routines without anyone hovering over me. I didn't invite anyone over or host family gatherings. I simply did my own thing. I know they all expected me to fail, but to be honest, I was okay with that. I kept my head down, paid my own bills, and managed my own affairs. I didn't ask them for anything, not even when my car battery died, forcing me to Uber to the grocery store for a week. Then one night, everything went awry. I had been up late, probably scrolling through my phone when I caught a whiff of smoke. At first, I thought I might have left something on, but the fire alarm blared, and I realized it was real. I grabbed my phone, wallet, and keys, didn't even bother with shoes, and dashed out. The fire department arrived quickly, but the house was old, and by the time they got it under control, half of it was charred. I stood on the curb, watching my belongings burn, feeling strangely numb, as if I should be panicking, but my mind was stuck on repeat. I called Carson because I didn't know who else to reach out to, and he actually answered. I explained what had happened and said I needed a ride or something. He said he would come by. I thought, maybe, just maybe, this was the moment someone would step up. Not 20 minutes later, my entire family showed up. Not just Carson, but my dad, Nicole, her fiancé, whom I hardly knew, and my mom. They all got out, and for a moment, I thought, okay, maybe they're here to help. But then Carson walked right past me, pulled out his phone, and began filming the house. He was laughing, genuinely laughing. Dad trailed behind him, shaking his head, not even glancing at me. Nicole emerged, her heels sinking into the grass, and remarked, "Wow, karma really does work." She started taking selfies with the house ablaze in the background, as if she were at some influencer event. Her fiancé just stood there, watching. Mom lingered by the car, arms crossed, saying nothing. I attempted to speak, but my throat felt dry, so I leaned against the mailbox and observed them. Carson kept making comments like, "Guess that's what happens when you ditch your family, huh? And some people are just jinxed, man." Dad looked me straight in the eyes and repeated, "You brought this upon yourself. Some folks just attract misfortune." I fixed my gaze on him and said, "Thanks for revealing your true colors." I didn't raise my voice. I just said it. He shrugged and turned away. I suppose I should have anticipated it, but even then, it felt like a blow. I could hear the fire chief discussing insurance and other matters with someone, but I wasn't paying attention. Carson strolled over, slapped me on the shoulder, not hard, but not gentle either, and said, "Tough break, bro." I pushed his hand away. He smirked and retreated. Nicole was going on about how she had always sensed something was off with this place, and how it was so typical that I would be the one to experience a house fire. Her fiancé attempted to convince her to leave, but she rolled her eyes and continued snapping photos. I told her to stop, and she replied, "What? It's not like you're going to post them." I told her to delete them or I would take her phone. I reached for it, and she jerked it away, then slapped my hand. I took a step back. I didn't want to escalate things right there, especially with the neighbors watching. Dad started lecturing me about learning from this experience and how maybe now I'd understand why family unity is important. I replied, "Yeah, great family." He rolled his eyes, walked back to the car, and slammed the door. Mum finally approached and handed me a bottle of water, saying, "You should come home tonight." I told her, "No, I'll figure it out." She shrugged and said she had tried. They stayed for about 15 minutes, just long enough for the fire trucks to leave. Carson continued pacing, taking calls, acting like he was in charge. He told one of the firefighters that he was my emergency contact and tried to get details about the fire's cause. I heard him say, "Yeah, he's always had bad luck with things like this." The firefighter just nodded and walked away. When they finally departed, Nicole slammed the car door with such force that the whole vehicle shook. I stood there, watching, their taillights fade. Some neighbors came over, asking if I was okay or needed a place to stay. I told them I would manage. I didn't want to owe anyone anything. The following day, I received a text from Carson, a picture of the burned house accompanied by a crying, laughing emoji. I didn't respond. Nicole shared a photo of herself and her fiancé at brunch, captioned, "Some people just can't help burning bridges." Mum called once, leaving a voicemail, expressing her hope that I was well and that I should let her know if I changed my mind about coming home. Dad didn't call at all. I guess that's just how things are in my family. If you don't play the game, you're fair game. I was always the odd one out because I refused to take sides in their petty disputes, wouldn't assist Dad with his projects, wouldn't help Carson with his endless drama, and wouldn't babysit for Nicole when she needed backup. I went my own way, and they despised that. They labeled me selfish and ungrateful, but I never bought into it. Yet, when you see them standing in front of your burned house, laughing, it hits differently. I stayed with a friend for a while, dealt with the insurance mess, and found a new place. I didn't speak to my family for a long time after that. I kept replaying how Dad looked at me, as if I were a disaster he had warned everyone about. I kept pondering his words. Some people are just cursed. What had I ever done that warranted such treatment? I hadn't stolen from them or deceived them. I just didn't want to participate in their games. I vowed that night I would never allow them to gain the upper hand again. I understood their dynamics and what mattered to them. I wasn't going to sit back and let them treat me like garbage any longer. I had proof, I had patience, and I had a memory that wouldn't fade. That was part 1. Part 2 gets a lot more intriguing, trust me. Here's the update. If you think I'm exaggerating, I wish I were. Perhaps this will seem petty to some, but if you've ever dealt with a family like mine, you know this doesn't just end after one bad night. It's like they find endless ways to remind you that you're not one of them and that they're ahead. I see you if you understand. For everyone else, I don't know. Just read. Fast forward a couple of months. After the fire, I'm crashing on a friend's old futon while insurance drags its feet. I don't have much besides what I managed to stuff in my backpack that night. I'm not broke, just weary. Rebuilding from scratch is tedious, and everything takes longer than anticipated. I figured my family would let me slip out of the group chat and move on, but that's not how it unfolded. The oddest part was how they would go silent for weeks, then suddenly reappear. The first time was maybe 2 months later. I woke up to find I'd been tagged in the family group chat. It was a meme. Someone had edited a picture of a dumpster on fire and labeled it Braden's housewarming party. Carson reacted with a skull emoji. Nicole chimed in with a crying laughing emoji, and Dad said nothing. Mum sent a sticker of a sad puppy, which is about as much as she ever contributes. I didn't respond. I considered muting the chat, but I didn't. Part of me wanted to see what they'd do next, and another part didn't want to give them the satisfaction. It was always stuff like that, never direct, always veiled. I received a text from Nicole on my birthday saying, "Hope you're not celebrating with candles all mayo." Once, I posted a photo of my new apartment on Instagram, and Carson immediately commented, "Looks flammable." He deleted it after a few hours, as if he wanted me to know he was watching but didn't want to give anyone else ammunition. I began getting accustomed to it, but some days it infuriated me more than I wanted to admit. I should probably point out that none of this was random. My family has always treated me this way. I was the one who said no when Dad wanted me to join the family projects, essentially unpaid labor for his hobbies. I was the one who called out Carson for belittling everyone. I was the one who told Mum I wouldn't keep playing nice with Nicole when she borrowed my things growing up. They always acted like I was the weak link, the one who was too sensitive or couldn't take a joke. They enjoyed having someone to kick around. It gave them something to discuss at dinner. About a year after the fire, I received an invitation to Nicole's engagement party. I nearly laughed. She sent me the invite via Snapchat, not even through a real text, with something like, "Hope you can make it, just don't burn the place down." I left her on read. Then, I saw the family group chat lighting up the night of the party with group, pictures, and cheers. Someone posted a poll asking who was most likely to ruin the night, and Carson voted for me, even though I wasn't there. Later, Nicole DM'd me a video of them all at a fancy restaurant, panning the camera over everyone, and then zooming in on the empty chair at the end of the table saying, "Guess who's missing?" Her fiancé in the background said, "I bet he's hiding from the fire marshal." I blocked her for a while after that. I occasionally ran into Mum at the store. She always tried to act as if nothing had changed. She'd ask if I needed anything, and I'd say no. She'd tell me the family was worried about me, and I'd laugh. She'd suggest I come over for Sunday dinner, and I'd say I was busy. Sometimes, she'd try to guilt me, saying Dad is getting older, or that Carson has a new job, or that Nicole's wedding was approaching, and she wanted everyone there. I'd nod and keep moving. She never brought up the fire, nor did I. Carson constantly boasted in the group chat about his new car, or how he couldn't relate to rental life, or posted pictures of his backyard with the caption, "Home Sweet Home." He changed his profile picture to a cartoon of a man fleeing from a burning building for about a month before switching it back. I never replied, but I did screenshot everything. At some point, I realized I was keeping a folder on my phone with all the nonsense they sent me. Every little slight, every meme, every accidental jab. I didn't even know why at first, but it felt like ammunition, like I wouldn't let them act as if none of this ever happened. Occasionally, someone outside, the family would ask what happened with the fire, and I'd just say it was an insurance mix-up. I could tell they didn't fully believe me. One time, a mutual friend asked if it was true that my family took selfies at the scene, and I said, "You'd have to ask them." Later, I received a text from Carson, telling me to stop spreading lies about us. I told him to mind his own business. He said, "Maybe if you had stuck with the family, bad things wouldn't happen to you." I replied with a thumbs up. He blocked me for a month, then unblocked me as if nothing had occurred. I began being more deliberate in my responses to them. Whenever they asked for help, Wi-Fi, phone issues, tech problems, whatever, they always assumed I would just do it because I owed them for all the times they had helped me. I started to say I was busy or that I didn't know how. They grew irritated, making snide remarks in the group chat. Carson said, "Guess some people never learn gratitude." Dad remarked, "Well, you know what they say about burned bridges. I let them talk." With Nicole's wedding approaching, she suddenly started texting me again, acting all friendly, asking if I could help set up her wedding website. She claimed she needed someone reliable because her friends were useless. I asked her if she remembered the fire. She replied, "OMG, that was 2 years ago. Let it go." I said, "Sure, I'll help," if she apologized. She sent a gif of a dumpster, fire, and then blocked me for a week. I received a call from her fiancé, who said I was being childish, and I hung up. Dad never called, but Mum left voicemails saying I was missing out on family moments, that I shouldn't hold grudges. I didn't call back. I noticed Carson posting about family loyalty on Facebook with a photo of everyone at dinner except me. I thought about commenting, but decided it wasn't worth it. I continued collecting screenshots. One night, while out with a friend, I received a notification. Nicole tagged me in an Instagram post. It was a picture of a cake with a miniature house on fire on top, captioned, "Happy Burnsary." I laughed, but it wasn't funny. My friend asked if I was going to say anything, and I replied, "Not yet." I began contemplating how much leverage I actually had. I had set up their Wi-Fi, connected their smart home devices, programmed their streaming apps, built their group playlists, even managed password resets for their email accounts. They took it for granted and forgot that all of it required time and effort. I realized they had no idea how reliant they were on me for all the little things. Not just tech stuff, but Nicole's wedding website, Carson's playlists, Dad's, calendar reminders, even Mum's phone contacts. All of it was stuff I had set up, and they never bothered to change it or learn it themselves. I wondered how long they would last if I simply stopped. I know it sounds petty, but if you've ever been made to feel like the family joke, like your pain is a source of entertainment, you understand. At some point, you stop playing nice. You stop waiting for them to realize the truth. You begin to think about what it would look like if you reclaimed what was yours. I'm not saying I had a full plan at this point, but the idea was forming. I started keeping receipts for a reason. I began saying no for a reason. I stopped trying to make peace for a reason. When they ramped up their demands, as Nicole's wedding drew closer, as Carson needed things, as Dad started asking for help, again, I knew what I was going to do next. Now, this is where things get real. Promise they had no clue what was coming. Update 2. This is where it truly gets interesting. Honestly, it felt almost surreal how the setup for this landed in my lap. But I guess that's what happens when people become accustomed to relying on you solely for the things they don't want to learn themselves. If you've read the first 2 parts, you know my family has been wearing me down with their jokes and mishaps for years. After the fire, it was an unending barrage. I kept my head down for a while, but after the Happy Burnsary incident, I began paying close attention to what they really needed from me. Little requests started popping up. Carson texted me one night, "Hey, did you ever get that old toolbox of Dad's? I want to borrow the drill." I checked my closet and saw I still had all those tools Dad had given me back when I moved out. He told me to keep them because he was getting new ones. Now Carson wanted them back for some backyard project. I told him, "Come pick them up if you want them." He claimed he was too busy and asked if I could drop them off at his place. I told him, "No, I'm working late." Not true, but whatever. He grew irritated and said, "I never help with anything." Then he sent a voice note complaining about how I only think of myself. Then there was Nicole, who kept messaging me about her wedding website. She never expressed gratitude. She just kept sending urgent requests about adding RSVPs, fixing errors, and updating her registry. She claimed her friends were useless and that I was the only one who understood. I started dragging my feet, telling her I was busy. She threatened to find someone else, and I said, "Go for it." Instead, she called Mom to complain, and then I got a call from Mom asking why I was making things difficult. I said, "I'm not. I just have things going on." Mom sighed and said, "Well, try to help. It's family." Dad was the worst. He had some calendar and contact issues I set up for him 3 years ago, and now he kept texting me because everything was out of sync with his phone. He insisted, "You need to fix this before I miss something important." I told him to call tech support, and he replied, "You are tech support." I just left him on read. Here's the thing. I finally realized how dependent they were on me for all the annoying little things they never wanted to learn. They all spoke a big game, but when push came to shove, I was the one who set up their Wi-Fi, connected their smart devices, programmed their streaming apps, created their group playlists, and even handled password resets for their email accounts. They thought it was trivial, but they forgot it was all time-consuming, and I knew where all the skeletons were buried. So I began to withdraw, not just ignoring them, but actively stepping back from everything I had ever set up. I gathered the tools into a box and texted the family group chat. Last call on these. Pick them up, or they're getting tossed. Carson replied, "Just bring them. I'll pay for gas." I told him, "Come get them yourself." He pressed, and I said, "No." He got angry and called me soft. Dad chimed in, saying I was being petty. I responded, "You left them at my place for 3 years, not my issue." Nicole's website started experiencing problems. It was her fault for changing the settings, and she texted me in all caps. I told her, "I'll fix it when I have time." She claimed, "Your attitude is ruining my wedding." I said, "Maybe ask someone else." She attempted to guilt me, saying I was letting the family down. I sent her a thumbs up. She called me, but I didn't answer. The next day, she showed up at my door, banging until I opened it. She began yelling, claiming I was sabotaging her big day. I told her to leave my porch. She tried to push past me, and I blocked the door with my foot. She slapped my arm, and I pushed her back. She screamed that I was dead to her and stomped off, slamming her car door. Later, Dad called, ranting about respect and loyalty, claiming I was embarrassing the family. I didn't let him finish. I hung up. Carson texted, "Bro, you're being crazy." I didn't answer. A string of missed calls flooded in, so I muted my phone. Then I began actively withdrawing from everything, not just ignoring them, but dismantling what I had set up. I logged into all the accounts where I was the admin and removed myself from everything. I changed the passwords on anything registered in my name and informed them, "If you want access, set it up yourselves." I deleted myself from their group subscriptions I had been funding out of habit, reset the Wi-Fi routers I'd purchased for them years ago, and texted the new login to the family chat before logging out for good. I sent Carson a calendar invite to pick up the tools or lose them. He didn't show. I sold the entire box on Facebook Marketplace for $50. I informed him after, and he called me, screaming. I let it go to voicemail. Nicole's wedding site eventually crashed completely. She lost her RSVP list. She bombarded me with texts, threatening to come over again. I blocked her number. Mom texted, saying I was causing drama, suggesting I should apologize. I didn't respond. The best part, I knew how much they depended on all this. Dad couldn't access his contacts or calendar anymore. Carson's backyard project was on hold because he couldn't find good help. Nicole's wedding was in disarray because her registry was down, and half her guests couldn't find the venue. I knew because they all started flooding the group chat, blaming each other and blaming me, demanding I fix things. I stayed silent. I saw Carson at a gas station a few days later. He approached, trying to act tough, saying I was ruining everything for no reason. I told him, "You made your choices. Now deal with it." He shoved me, and I shoved him back. He called me a loser, and I told him to grow up. He stormed off, slamming his car door and speeding away. It's wild how quickly they shift from acting like you're worthless to treating you as if you're indispensable when things start falling apart. I began receiving texts from people I barely knew. Nicole's friends, Carson's girlfriend, even Mom's book club acquaintance, asking if I could help. I ignored them all. This wasn't about the tech or the tools or the wedding. It was about them needing me while never wanting to admit it. Now, they were finally experiencing what it felt like without me cleaning up their mess. They weren't foolish, but they were so accustomed to me being the scapegoat that they never saw it coming. At the end of the day, I didn't feel guilty. Not even a bit. They ignited the flames. I merely allowed the fire to burn out. The next part details the aftermath. They grew desperate. Calls, texts, even showing up at my home. It became louder, but it wasn't my issue. Final update. I thought when things began crumbling for them, they would ignore it, as usual, or attempt to fix it themselves. then act as if they never actually needed me. But no, it didn't unfold that way. What really surprised me was how rapidly it all escalated. Once one thing broke, it set off a chain reaction, and the desperation was genuinely striking. I still chuckle about it at times. The first strange occurrence was my phone blowing up one morning, not just a few texts. I mean over 40 notifications, missed calls, voicemails, even Facebook messages from people I hadn't spoken to since high school. I checked, and it was all from my family plus a bunch of randoms, including Nicole's fiancé. The group chat was total chaos. Carson tagging everyone saying, "Braden, you need to fix this now." Dad chiming in with, "This is out of hand, call me ASAP." And Nicole was in full meltdown mode, her messages filled with all caps and exclamation points. It took me a moment to decipher what the emergency was because it was just endless scrolling. So, there I was, sipping coffee, scrolling TikTok, waiting to see if they would give up. They didn't. The group chat transitioned from angry to desperate. At one point, Nicole screamed, "You are ruining my life on purpose!" And I couldn't help but laugh. Dad tried the guilt tactic, insisting, "This is family business. You need to step up." Carson threatened to drive over and settle this. I silenced my phone. By noon, Mum showed up at my door, which I should have anticipated but didn't. She knocked and called my name, begging, "We just need to talk. Just come outside." I opened the door a crack. She pleaded, "Don't do this. They're all losing it. Why can't you just fix it?" I replied, "I'm done." I told everyone I was finished. They were on their own. She attempted to step inside, but I blocked the door. She sighed, saying, "You're really going to let the whole family fall apart over a few mistakes?" I responded, "It's not my problem, Mum. They made their choices." She patted my shoulder. I pulled back, and she turned and left, slamming the car door. About an hour later, Carson actually showed up, furious. He came right up, yelling from the porch, "I'm being a child. This is all my fault. Nobody else would do this to their blood." I told him to leave. He pushed past me, and I shoved him back down the steps. He tried to slap my arm. I blocked him, and he kicked at the doorframe, cursing at me before storming back to his car and sitting there for about 10 minutes before speeding off. Nicole attempted to call me on every app she could think of, Snap, Insta, even Telegram. I blocked her everywhere. She left voicemails crying and cursing, then called back with her fiancé yelling in the background. I didn't pick up. Later, I got a text from one of her friends saying, "You're being really unfair. You're ruining everything for Nicole." I blocked her too. I heard from a cousin that Dad's business was actually suffering. He was missing appointments and had to reschedule many things at the last minute because his contacts were a mess. Carson's girlfriend posted on her story about people who sabotage family, tagging me. I replied with a fire emoji and blocked her too. The group chat transformed into a wall of messages, all caps, all day, every day. "You have to fix this. Please pick up. You're destroying the family. You're selfish. You're cursed." The best part? They tried getting others to talk to me, an uncle I hadn't seen in years, a family friend from church, even my mum's book club lady. I ignored them all. I wasn't going to be guilted back in. I saw Carson one last time at the gas station as he tried to block my path, saying, "Just fix it and we'll forgive you." I laughed and continued walking. He grabbed my arm and I shrugged him off. He muttered something about never speaking to me again, and I said, "Good." I walked away. The only one who somewhat understood was Mom. She called one final time, leaving a voicemail that was mostly silence before saying, "I hope you're happy. You got what you wanted." I deleted it. Now it's quiet. I still get random calls and occasional guilt trips, but I'm out. They're on their own, and I'm not swooping in to save anyone. Not after what they did. Not after years of being the family joke, the punching bag, the cursed one. If you've read all of this, you understand why I did what I did. I'm not sorry. I'm not fixing anything. They wanted me out, and now they get to see what that truly means. I'm not claiming victory or that life is perfect now, but at least I can finally say I stopped playing their game. They're still calling, still yelling, still begging. None of it is my concern. I'm good. I appreciate those who followed the updates. I know this isn't a cinematic ending, but sometimes just walking away is the only genuine move. If you've ever been the scapegoat and finally fought back, I see you. I'll be here, blocking numbers and living rent-free in their heads.